Let's talk DA, why don't we? The election of John Steenhuisen has been the big political headline of the past 24 hours. Steenhuisen's election is only the latest headline in what's been a difficult few months for the country's official opposition. First came the drop in electoral support during May's general election. That set off speculation about Mmusi Maimani's future as leader of the DA, as well as claims of a conspiracy to oust him. You'll remember he tried to soldier on and fight, but eventually relented and resigned just last month, which brings us to this moment. John Steenhuisen, the new man in charge, even if it is temporarily. In a moment, we're going to bring in our guest to talk about what lies ahead for the DA, and joining me to have that conversation is the South African Institute of Race Relations Campaigns Coordinator, Herman Pretorius, and political analyst Prince Mashele. But before we get there, though, I want to give you some of the feeling from John Steenhuisen as he prepares to take on this new role. Take a listen.
I think that if one looks at the analysis and the data, a different picture emerges. In fact, we went backwards amongst black South Africans in this last election. The party advanced the most in those communities when it was clear and unambiguous about what it stood for and what it was attempting to achieve under both Helen Zille and Tony Leon. So I think that we can reconnect with those voters. What they want to see is a party that's solutions-oriented, that's offering them a future in South Africa, lifting people out of poverty into opportunity, ensuring we have an equality of opportunity so we don't have to engineer equality of outcome, making sure they've got children at schools where they actually have a good shot of a quality education, and of course creating jobs. That's what interests people.
Well, as mentioned, I'm not alone tonight. I'm joined by political analyst Prince Mashele, as well as Herman Pretorius from the Institute for Race Relations. Gentlemen, my thanks to you both. Thank you for coming in. Prince, I'll start with you. So John Steenhuisen has these elaborate ideas about how the DA is essentially going to take over the country's politics. Has the party elected the right man in him to lead it to the political promised land?
Thank you very much. Look, the DA is not about to take over South Africa's political landscape. What will happen, in my view, to the DA is that it's going to regress, it's going to become a smaller party. Because what you are witnessing now is a takeover or a retake-over of the DA completely by white leaders and the exiting of black leaders from the party. So you can see that there is a coordinated project by the white leadership of the party, that the whole experiment with black leadership is over. They want their party back. Now, if you accept that narrative, and if you consider the fact that the majority of South Africans are black, you can only come to the conclusion that the DA, if it doesn't grow into the black electorate, it will become smaller. So it doesn't matter what rhetoric John Steenhuisen throws up in the air. The party is going to become smaller, and it's going to become a party for whites only.
Let me come to you then, Herman Pretorius, the only white man on this set right now. I'd imagine that you disagree with Prince's view that what we're dealing with in the DA currently is essentially a purge of the black leadership.
Yes, absolutely. It's nonsense. Athol Trollip, not a black man. Paul Bowie, not a black man. James Self, not a black man. Mmusi Maimane, a black man. Fair enough. But, I mean, this isn't a purging of black leaders. Mr. Mashele can say what he wants. That's just a very, very selective interpretation of the facts. And if you look broader than this, Mr. Mashele's, the whole underlying idea is that voters vote on skin colour and not on policy, and the data just doesn't support that. South African voters aren't stupid enough to go into a ballot box, look at a ballot paper, compare the face of the party leader to their own skin, and then decide who they're going to vote for. South Africans know that you vote for policy. South Africans know that you vote for the party that governs best. If you look at the ANC support, when did it do best? 2004. When did the economy do best? 2004. So South African voters aren't, race-based Twitter trolls. They are actual people.
I want to take that point and bring it back to you and say, if by your suggestion the DA would have been this party that's doing better in terms of governance, as it often says it does in the Western Cape, for instance, why is it that 25 years later it's still not in government?
Well, it's not just governance, of course. I think it's ideological clarity. To go from a party of 1.4% to the official opposition in one election cycle from 94 to 99 is incredible. To go from 9% to 22% in 2014 is further incredible. That's a solid growth trajectory. And in those years, the party party was clear on what it stood for. Ideologically, it had a message. Mr. Maimane is, and I think Justice Malala is right when he says Mr. Maimane should be in Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC and not in the DA. He's the core of liberalism is non-racialism, the right and the ability of the individual. And if Mr. Mashele wants to reduce the South African voter to a race bot, he's welcome to do so. But I think South Africans won't look kindly on that.
Prince Mashele, are you reducing the South African voter to a race robot / Twitter troll?
Here is the thing. You see, there is a world of reality, right? And there is a world of ideology. This gentleman lives in, I don't know where he works. He must be working in the world of ideology where they sit and imagine a South Africa that does not exist. Here is the true South Africa. In the main, our politics is organized around race, whether he chooses to see it or not. The majority of people who have been voting the ANC since 1994 have been black, whether he chooses to deny it or not.
I'm not denying that.
The overwhelming majority of people, in fact, I would argue, if you remove coloreds, the overwhelming majority of DA voters have been white. White people in South Africa have not been voting for the ANC. So I don't know where he lives and where he works. What I know is this, is that even if you look at the latest results, by the way, you can see the trends. Where are the trends going? The black voters who have ditched the ANC have actually gone in the direction of the EFF. The white voters, a small segment who have ditched the DA, have actually gone in the direction of the Freedom Front. So there are no white voters who have suddenly voted black the party.
And let's go
there
there,
are no black
Herman,
voters that have voted white parties. So this man must come back to reality.
Let's go there, because I mean, when you look at the growth of the FF Plus in this last election, we were told that what happened was that you had a segment of the white population that previously voted DA that felt at a policy level it just wasn't looking out for their interests, and that's why they went for a Freedom Front Plus that is seen, especially in black communities, as the more right-aligned of the two political options.
Let's look at the two parties who grew electorally in this last election, the EFF and the Freedom Front Plus. What do they have in common? Ideological clarity. The ANC declined. What's
but
the
based on
there?
race?
ANC. No, hang on.
Is that not on race?
No. 83% of South Africans agree with the statement that I don't care what the colour of my child's teacher is as long as that teacher is good. 76%, and if Mr. Mashele wants facts and reality, let's go with facts and reality and data. 76% of South Africans agree with the statement that better education and access to jobs will solve inequalities between race. 57% of South Africans say race relations have improved since 1994. 84% of South Africans say that our sports team should be chosen on merit, not race. I can go on. South Africa.
How big a sample was that?
Oh, it was a proper sample of, I think, 1,700 people.
So 1,700 people for a population of over 52
so now
million.
we're dismissing the polling industry.
The right thing.
Now we're dismissing
polls
the polling
are by
industry.
their nature meant to be questioned, are they not?
Of course. But
Let's give it a moment, Prince.
Point me to the mistake in the methodology. Don't just target sample sizing. That's the lazy man's way of going about
But the sample size
polling.
does matter, does it not, Herman?
Yes, no, okay, but then show me
But you admit it matters.
Okay,
how
what
big a sample
would be
is
satisfying for you?
Clearly not 1,700 for a population of over 50
that's
million.
the polling business. If we're going to talk about polling, that's how opinion polling was done. And our opinion polling at the IRR, with that same sample size, predicted the outcome of the election result within 2 percentage points. You can dismiss the polling industry at your peril, but let's not buy into narratives. Let's get some facts here. If the South African voter really only votes, I'm a black guy, that's a black guy, I must vote for him, that's such a dismissive and insulting way of looking at the South African voter.
Prince Mashele, based on what Herman is saying and what John Steenhuisen has been saying in his weekend interviews, South Africa is a country obsessed with race, and the majority,
as well.
if you go on what Herman is saying, is not concerned with race. You want to respond?
Nope.
Well,
hang on. That's not what I said.
No. Okay, should I come in or he must?
You have your take.
Fine. Here's the thing. I don't know what these chaps are smoking.
It's called data.
Yeah,
it's called polling. It's called
business about polling. By the way, I mean, your whole crew, your club of polling in the US, they got it completely wrong. So this whole thing about polling has been discredited.
But no. What did they get wrong?
I listened to him.
Finish and then I'll bring you back in.
They got the popular vote within 2%.
Okay, let's agree not to talk over each other. Prince, you have your say. I'm the only person allowed to interrupt. Prince, have your say.
Well, I think in addition to polling, he must be taught the manners of just discourse and debate. Here is the thing about South Africa. The people who are denying the importance of race in South Africa in the main are white. You know why they are doing so? It's because they are extremely uncomfortable about that language. What does the language do to them? It reminds them of the history of discrimination that was based on race. When white people in South Africa were empowered throughout our history, there was no race blindness about it. It was very clear that the policies were targeted at white people. That's why white people are where they are today, socio-economically today. When it is the turn for black people to be empowered, the white people are coming to tell us that race does not matter. You know why? They want to make it difficult for us to test whether or not we're making progress in terms of black empowerment or not. Because if you say, let us be race blind, you cannot therefore have an instrument that says, let us assess if black people have made progress or not. Because they want to remove you from concrete indicators of progress to tell you that to be raised blind. So we must not be made to chase our tails by this gentleman. We know the truth of South Africa is that white people are more socio-economically empowered compared to blacks.
And if you hold on for me, we need to take a quick breather, and then I'll come back to both of you and allow you to move this conversation forward. We're discussing tonight the election of John Steenhuisen as a new DA leader and the party's position on race. I'm Tembekile Mkhototo, and this is Nightline.